Hey everyone, welcome back to the Energy to Heal podcast. My name is Laura. I'm your host today, and I have the honor and the privilege of introducing you guys to one of my dear friends, Miya. And she's a fellow practitioner of mine, continuing on that conversation of the practitioners that I'm featuring for you guys who might be a little hesitant to go find a practitioner on your own. Maybe you feel overwhelmed by the entire list of practitioners on the website. I want to narrow it down for you and give you a chance to meet them kind of face to face or ear to ear so you feel like a connection. Hey, I relate with that thing that Miya said. I would feel comfortable reaching out and making an appointment with her. If you've been listening to this podcast for any amount of time and you're thinking that maybe a Splankna session is something you're ready to do, I want to make that as easy as possible for you. So without further ado, here's Miya. Miya, thank you so much for taking the morning to be on the podcast with me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Yeah.
Can you go ahead and just introduce yourself? Tell us who you are and where you are.
Yes, my name's Miya Martin, and I live in Colorado. I was born and raised in Colorado, so I've seen it evolve throughout the years, and I've just moved all over. I've lived in Aurora. I grew up in Aurora, and then I went to school in Greeley at UNC, and then I moved back to Littleton for a little bit, moved to Denver for a little bit, and so yeah, just here in Colorado and loving the blue skies. And
yeah, I wish if you're just listening to this, you guys have to picture this background. When she first signed on, I thought she had one of those fake backgrounds uploaded into her video call because it's that gorgeous. She's got this gorgeous evergreen tree behind her. You can see for like 20 miles behind you. She's on this beautiful balcony. And then right before we hit record, she goes, "Oh my gosh, a deer is walking by." I was like, where do you live? This is like a dream.
Yeah, it is a dream. It is a dream, honestly. And we have this really beautiful hawk that always flies over our deck. And my kids named our hawk Maui Watermelon. So, yeah.
I love the watermelon part at the end of that.
So we get excited every time Maui Watermelon flies by.
I love it so much. Okay, so you're in Colorado, well-versed with all the cities around Denver. Okay, this is my all-time favorite question to ask practitioners, and what I love to start with, not only on the podcasts, but like when we go to masters, this is the question I ask people because genuinely, Splankna is relatively new. It's less than 30 years old, and not a lot of people have heard about it. So how in the world did you hear about it? What was your first impressions of it? And like, what was that open door for you?
Yes. So such a good question to ask. So, oh goodness, I have two children, and when I had my second kid, I was really struggling with postpartum. I was crying 3 times a day, maybe 4 times. It was uncontrollable crying, and I had kind of lost all hope in life because I had been to so many different therapy sessions, talk therapy, and just a wide variety, and nothing seemed to really get to the root issue of what I was experiencing. And actually, throughout my whole life, I've always felt that something was just wrong with me, right? And I want people to understand that when you have that instinct to chase it and find out what is really going on beneath the surface, that is a story for another day. But through Splankna, I was able to really get to that root issue of why I felt that something was inherently wrong with me. And I feel such a freedom from it now, which is praise Jesus, right?
Yeah.
But going back to postpartum, I was feeling very out of control. I was working from home 30 hours a week, and I had a 1.5-year-old and an infant. Actually, sorry, I had a 1-year-old and an infant, and trying to work. My son had a lot of health issues, and I felt like I was failing at everything. I felt like I was failing at work. I felt like I was failing at being a wife and a mom. And I just didn't know how to get out of that season. And my husband, we have some friends, and one of his friends said, "Hey, has your wife tried Splankna?" And so when my husband came home to me, he's like, "Hey, you should try Splankna." He did not pronounce it correctly, though. He pronounced it
Most people don't the first time.
So I don't even know how he pronounced it. And I was like, "What is that?" He's like, "I don't even know what it is. You just kind of like, you find emotions in your body and you hold it." So he had no idea what it was, but I was so broken and so lost that I was like, "Sign me up. I don't care."
You were like, "I'll try anything.
I will try anything," because I was so broken at that time.
Just hearing you describe working 30 hours a week with a newborn and a 1-year-old. Like I get teary just hearing you describe it, because anyone who has been there knows it is a depth of something that is hard to explain to someone unless you've been there.
So true. It was very difficult, and I unfortunately made that decision to work, and I had to forgive myself for making that decision, because my family really suffered because of it, so
were you just feeling like, not only am I sad and depressed and all the things, but like I don't even know who I am. I don't know how to get back to who I am. Maybe I'll never get back to who I am.
I was so in the trenches that I couldn't even think. All I could think about was like, how do I just stop crying so that I can move forward and like serve my family. That was like the only thought I could have.
Wow. And how long did that go on for?
That's a great question. I want to say 9 months.
Oh my gosh.
9 months probably.
And maybe. Was your doctor, like at your 8-week appointment, was your doctor aware?
My doctor was concerned, yes.
Okay.
Because of the uncontrollable crying. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was definitely
9 months is when you heard about Splankna. Is that what you're saying?
I'm pretty sure. It's hard to remember.
Yeah, roughly.
And I want to say 9 months into that postpartum issue, maybe even a year into it, is when my husband recommended Splankna. So, yeah. Okay. So then I started to see June. I have to give a shout out to her because she's an incredible practitioner.
Thank you, June.
Thank you, June. Thank you, Jesus. So I went to go see her, and when I walked into her office, of course I was crying because I had that problem with uncontrollable crying. And when I left her office, I was no longer crying. And the next day I woke up and it was nothing short of a miracle that I had not cried for the first time.
Oh my word, that quickly.
Laura. It was a miracle. It really was.
Did you kind of know instantly walking out of her office that something was different, or not till the next day?
Not till the next day.
Oh.
Not till the next morning. It was like a fire had reignited within me, and hope reignited within me, and I felt like I wanted to go climb a mountain and say, "Wake up, people. Jesus is alive and Jesus is healing. He is working still today, and he's so miraculous," right?
Oh my gosh. You felt like an instant new person the next day.
Yeah, I did. I did.
In your case, did it really even matter what the session you did with June was about? Or like, was it just like, whatever, we cleared whatever it was, we worked through an event, and I was a new person the next day? Or was it like closely tied to something with pregnancy and birth and all the things?
It was not closely tied to pregnancy and birth. And I've actually thought about that question before. And at the time, I didn't realize the connection until I reflected on it. And then I could see it was all about feeling out of control. So once I got that out of control, out of the way, I was able to think a lot more clearly.
Yeah. So if you guys are new and you don't know what we're meaning, you can literally go to a Splankna practitioner and say, I can't stop crying and I don't know why. I don't know why I'm crying. I don't know how to stop. I don't know where it's coming from. And we will just do a session. We'll bring that to the Lord and say, God, can you show us where is the root of all these tears? And it might go to something that makes a ton of sense. Like, oh yeah, you had a traumatic labor and birth and that's where your tears are coming from. And we'll work through that trauma. Sometimes though, something what seems to be completely unrelated comes up as the targeted trauma. And you might be like, wait, really? This is why I'm crying? That has nothing to do with being a mom. And man, I have just learned to just go with it because the Lord always knows what he's doing. Surprise, surprise. And it's wild how there's always dots you can connect. Like you said, oh, this thing we worked on, whatever trauma came up for you with June, didn't have to do with being a mom, but it had to do with feeling out of control. Now, fast forward, here you are, a new mom with a new baby and a 1-year-old and trying to work. You're feeling so out of control. And now the old stuff from whatever trauma is being triggered again. Mm-hmm. And that's how it all ties together.
Exactly. Yep. That's exactly right.
So you were like all in from the beginning.
And I was all in from the beginning.
Had a life-changing session on your first session.
I did, because it was so life-changing. I was dedicated to going to a Splankna session every week for, I think, 6 to 8 months. Every week. There was one week I was so sick. I was like, I don't care. We're meeting over Zoom, June. You're
like, I am not missing this.
I'm not missing my week. Yeah, exactly. So.
Okay. How did you know when you were like, I don't want to say done, but how did you know at that 6 to 8 month mark where you're like, I think that season of healing is over for me for now, or I don't need to be so consistent with it? Was it just the Lord?
It just really happened very organically when I started to learn how to be a practitioner myself. That was my pivot point of knowing, okay, I can actually go and be a servant for the Lord and go work and put my head down and learn something and grow. And that was the other thing, is I was so desperate to just learn and grow, and I wanted to do something that would, that I could learn and it was just so wonderful how it all happened. But that was probably the point when I realized, okay, I don't have to go every single week anymore. And it's interesting because I had that miraculous healing from my first session. I had to learn that not every single session is going to give you that huge movement.
That's a really great point.
Say
more about that.
Yeah, some sessions might give you massive movement, especially in the beginning, but then once you start healing, it's almost like these little fine tune. Like God is like, yeah, it's in my timing now, and I'm just fine tuning you. And sometimes you can't even feel that you're getting healed or that you're changing because it's just so small. And something that I've had to learn is just like thanking Jesus for even those smallest movement that he does in your life.
That's a really great point, especially when your very first session is so massive like that and instantly your life changes. But I just was talking to a friend of mine. She's a talk therapist, and her and I work together. She'll send clients to me. I send clients to her. And she was working with someone the other day, and they were like, oh, I don't know. I don't really do those things anymore. And he's listing off all these things that used to be characteristic for him. And she said, you know that's from your breakthrough in Splankna, right? And he's like, what do you mean? Like, he didn't even see it. And she goes back, pulls up the notes of what we had worked on in our Splankna sessions. And it was kind of this like, oh, that symptom had kind of slipped out the back door and just wasn't a thing for him anymore. And he just kind of like thought, oh, I guess I just don't really do that anymore. And she helped connect the dots. Like, that is exactly what your session was about. So sometimes you guys, even we heal and we don't even realize it. It's kind of like when your headache goes away after you take a Tylenol or something. You don't really notice the moment the headache disappears. But later you might be like, oh, yeah, I guess I don't have a headache anymore. That sometimes and oftentimes is the experience of Splankna, isn't it?
It is. Absolutely. I agree. That's such a good point, Laura.
So going back to your motherhood journey, because one thing I know about you is you love being a mother. It's a role you take very, very seriously, as you should. But you were in the depths of it.
Yes, I was. And I was able to learn a lot through Splankna and how much how important it is for families to be aware of that little baby in the womb. And so I actually had a couple questions for you if you wanted to talk about it, because you have an interesting story about you have 5 children, am I correct?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so what happened with your 5th child?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know if I've ever talked about that on the podcast. So our kids right now are 5 to 15. Youngest is 5, oldest is 15. And we had actually gotten a vasectomy after our 4th because we were like, hey, our family's complete. We're all good. This is amazing. We both wanted 4 kids. And in March of 2020, which was, we all know what happened in 2020, but March was like the darkest, heaviest, scariest month for, I think, the whole world, because that's when we didn't know what COVID was. They were showing terrifying videos of like things happening in New York. People were sanitizing their groceries, before they were brought into the house. And in that month, I found out I was pregnant.
Oh.
And I can't put into words how, like, shocked doesn't cut it. I could not let this information, no matter how hard I tried, sink into my mind, because everything felt so surreal. There were riots happening downtown Omaha, which had never happened before. It felt like the whole world was ending, and excuse me, what? I'm pregnant after a vasectomy. Like, nothing in me could absorb that. And you guys, to the point where even, and I hate to even say this out loud, but like in the hospital, in between contractions, I looked at my husband and I said, I can't wrap my mind around the idea that we're about to have a 5th. Still, in 9 months of processing. And there, of course, came with that so much guilt, because babies are a blessing. You're supposed to be so excited. And it's not that I didn't want another baby. It's just I couldn't I don't know how else to say it. I couldn't live in the reality of it. There was a block.
And Laura, I think this is something that not every single woman experiences, but I do think it is a topic that isn't talked about much. It's a vulnerable question. It doesn't get talked about. And we know that in Splankna that trauma can form and children can be affected even in the womb. And I just want to hear what you would say to the mom who deeply loves her children, loves being a mother, but doesn't want to be pregnant again. And if she unexpectedly becomes pregnant and feels guilt or shame because she doesn't want the pregnancy, what encouragement or guidance would you give to that mom?
Yeah. And I mean, our first one came, the way I heard it at least, was my OBGYN said, hey, if you get off birth control, it's normal within a year or 2 for it to take that long to get pregnant again. And I was like, hey, I could get pregnant in a year or 2 from now. I think that'd be okay. I was pregnant a week later. So that was like, oh, we're kind of still in this newlywed thing, but I guess we're having a baby. Okay. And it was like, okay, we were excited, but also like trying to wrap our head around that and kind of feeling not ready. And then baby number 2 just kind of like I had bought this natural family planning book because I'm like, well, I'm not doing birth control again. That messed me up. But this natural family planning book sat on my bedside stand for the next 3 months, and I never read it. And then I got pregnant. Thinking I knew what it was, this whole natural family planning thing, and I just didn't. And my husband jokes, he's like, were you hoping the book was going to like work by osmosis, just if you sleep by it enough? So that one was a surprise. And then, you guys, we had our third right after a move. We had 3 under 3. My oldest was 2 when my third child was born. And when I found out about that pregnancy, I did not think I had it in me. It's not that I didn't want the baby. It was like, I am not capable. I don't have any more energy. I don't have any more to give. I'm already burning the candle at both ends. I already have no idea who I am anymore because all I am is a servant to people who need me. What do you mean another baby is coming? And I remember telling my sister, she was living with us at the time while her husband was deployed. And I came downstairs to tell her, and I just literally collapsed on the floor in tears. It was that intense.
Wow.
What I would say to the mom who finds herself in that position or has found herself in that position is, you guys, that baby that I collapsed on the floor crying about because there's no way I could be a good mom to a third baby. I'm done. I'm not capable. That baby was like my therapy. It was our daughter. I would sit with her, and after she came, I would sit and be like, I cannot even believe I get to be this baby's mom. I wanted to be with her every moment. I was so in love with her. And of course the other boys too, but it was like specifically this third, which I thought was going to break me, ended up being like my little bestie. Like, all I would want to say is trust Jesus. And when you can't do it in your own strength, that's okay, because we're not called to do life in our own strength anyway. Lean harder on him. And the mother that is in you is so much more capable than you have any idea of. What's been required of you so far, it's taken all you've got. But what's coming is going to require more, but God will give you the more once you get there. So don't try to solve for 6 months from now, because you're going to be a different person 6 months from now. In today, you just lean on him. He'll give you everything you need, and trust. Because you guys, every single time that we had a surprise pregnancy added, and maybe just the timing of it was a surprise or whatever, I wouldn't change a single thing about it. Our 5th child, our family would be so sad without her. She's the perfect end cap to our family. She is such a blessing. And it's okay to be scared. It's okay to not know if you have what it takes, and to be like, okay, I guess this is another place that I get to trust Jesus. It's another unknown place.
Wow. That's beautiful, Laura. Thank you for sharing that. I actually have a follow-up question, because in Splankna, we do a lot of womb work, and it's been revealed that there's like reoccurring themes that we see in a lot of our clients, like someone discovering that a family member was hoping for a different gender, or that an older sibling didn't want another baby to be born. And since we have the benefit of understanding how these early experiences can affect a child, what practical advice would you give to families who want to be proactive? And how can parents and siblings create an environment where a child feels fully wanted, welcomed, and valued from the very beginning?
Okay, so I would first of all say, obviously, like, if you know something intense happened when you were pregnant, and maybe it was a physical trauma, like a car accident, maybe you know that baby was around a lot of fighting, a lot of intensity, a lot of unrest while it was in the womb, anything like that. Like, I knew my 5th was probably going to have a wantedness trauma, because I was shocked, devastated, scared, terrified, pandemic, all the stuff. That's an obvious. I don't even have to take that before the Lord. I already know that my fifth has got some stuff there that could be worked on and healed. I just would say do a Splankna session, just like preemptively. Don't wait to see if they have identity issues or self-esteem issues, or aggression that comes out of nowhere. Like, just be like, hey, listen, this baby's been through some stuff. Can we do a session? I've definitely done a lot of womb work for people, they're 30 and we go back to the womb and it turns out, there was this big thing that happened when their mom was pregnant with them, or their birth was very traumatic. Hey guys, I want to pause this conversation to tell you about a few things that I've been working on behind the scenes to make your experience here better. I have put together a website, lauramilliken.com, where I am trying to put everything you could ever need to go deeper into what we're doing on this podcast, Splankna, and even more about just my own personal life and what's going on. I also created a Patreon. If you've never heard of that, Patreon is a way for you to kind of get a behind the scenes look at the podcast. Also a way for you to support what we're doing here at the podcast. There are different levels, but once a month I am doing a Zoom call with my inner circle people on Patreon, where we're getting together, we're praying together, encouraging each other, talking about all things Splankna, or literally anything you've got going on in your life. This is our band of people coming together and supporting one another from a Christian, faith-based, inner healing Splankna perspective. On that website, I also have an opportunity for you to look into training with the Splankna Institute. You don't have to have any kind of specific background for you to go into training. I was a nurse before I got trained, and it will give you all the information there. But if you do decide that you are going to go get trained, if the Lord speaks that to you and puts it on your heart, I want to encourage you to use the code podcast when you sign up for training to get a discount on that training fee. And lastly, if you are looking for a practitioner, maybe you've been listening to these episodes and you're like, okay, I'm ready. I want to try my own session, but you don't have anyone near you. You can't find a practitioner in your city. I want you to know there are virtually trained practitioners. Not all, but some practitioners do virtual sessions and they can meet with you anywhere in the world. And I have created a list for you of featured practitioners that I know in real life. I've sat with them over lunch. They are amazing people with sincere hearts for the Lord. And all of their contact information is going to be found on my website at lauramilliken.com. But the other thing I did with my kids, and especially my fifth, is when she was tiny, a baby, couldn't even speak, I would grab her face and I would say, I am so lucky to be your mom. I'm so lucky to be your mama. Why in the world? I can't figure out why God would bless me so much with a daughter like you. And I said this to her so often, maybe even a little bit out of fear of her having a wantedness trauma. And yes, we did a Splankna session on her about the wantedness thing and being a surprise pregnancy and all that. But I said this to her so often that when she started to speak, and she's super little, she one day grabbed my face before bed and she looked at me, and with the most sincerity that a 2-year-old could ever have, she said, I am so lucky to be your mama. I just cried. I'm like, oh, honey. Like, she didn't really get the sentence structure or the role, and that she's not my mom. She just knows, like, if you want to express deep love to somebody, that's the sentence you say. And I was like, okay.
That is a win. That is a win in all areas.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah. So, and I still continue that with my kids because it's my older kids. It's, for whatever reason, it's easier for me to just grab a toddler, grab a baby and snuggle them and kiss them and tickle them and I love you so much. And it's harder when they're older and they're teenagers and you can't just scoop them up and they don't want to be sometimes all like, it's different, the dynamic. But to still be telling my 12-year-old, my 15-year-old, I'm like in a teenager-y way, like, hey, I'm so lucky to be your mom. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so proud of you. Because it's not like they just need to hear that when they're 3 and then they're good.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the throes of middle school and bullying and who's popular and whose friend group are you a part of this week. Like, man, those kids need to be reminded, probably more than the toddlers, that they're loved so deeply, so completely. No matter what's going on at school, their home base is like safe and secure. But man, it's harder for me. It's harder to know how to do that with a teenager.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something that just popped up is like even when they're at school or they're gone for a day and when they come home, just being like, I missed you so much while you were gone.
Yeah.
Little things.
Generally, like, I want my kids when they come home with even the tiniest little things, I want them to know that I am glad they're here. Like when they walk in, I want my body language to be like, hi, instead of like, put your shoes by the door, go get your,
Hang your backpack up.
And it can be overwhelming, like when all of them get home from school. We're sending our youngest to kindergarten, so this fall, so this will be the first time they all come home. But even last year, it's like they all walk in, they all want snacks, they're all starving. They want to, like, can I have my screen time? Can you help me with my homework? Mom, when is dance tonight? And it's so easy to be like, all right, shoes by the door, get your backpack hangs up, get your homework out, and instead to be like, hi guys, come here, give me a hug. Okay, now the backpacks and the shoes and the homework and the snacks, I so deeply want my kids when they're 40 to look back on their childhood years and remember that I was happy to be around them.
Amen.
Instead of overwhelmed with the tasks, which I am. Honestly, I am very consciously aware of not letting that be the most present thing that they see on me. Because I don't want them to think that my overwhelm with the tasks is the same as they overwhelm me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow, Laura. It's beautiful. Thanks for sharing all that. I had some other random questions. I don't know if you're okay to pivot a little bit.
Yeah, I was just going to say one more thing about the womb work
absolutely.
Before we move on, because you're right, this is a big part of Splankna and it surprises people because how could I remember something that happened in the womb? Like, how in the world could that be affecting me? I don't even remember it. But I love some of the ones that you listed off, being the wrong gender. So I just, in the last week, had a client come in and it was their maybe 3rd or 4th session and womb came up and I said, okay, well, this one's going to be a little different than everything we've done before because you've remembered everything we've done before. This is something that you don't remember, which is being in the womb. And they were like, okay, I guess we'll see where it goes. So the very first emotion this client holds, which was feeling unloved in the womb. I said, go ahead and picture yourself being in the womb, and I want you to pull up the emotion of being unloved as big as you can feel it. And I said, we might not get to the exact story of what happened when you were in the womb because she doesn't remember anything about or doesn't know anything about her time in the womb. She held the first emotion, and as she was holding it, I was just praying, asking the Holy Spirit, God, what are we doing today? Why the womb? Can you give us some insight? And I heard in my spirit just this little idea popped up in my head, and I heard, this is wrong gender trauma. Okay, I'll tuck that away. We'll see where this goes. She opens her eyes. She's instantly tears. Oh. And I was like, what happened for you as you held that unloved emotion? And she said, I instantly heard, man, I wish it was a boy. And everything just started to click at that moment for her, because then she recounted other memories of growing up. And she's like, I remember wanting to play in the dirt just to prove like I can be that kind of a kid. And trying to do this in the yard to try to kind of earn my place in the family. Like, see, you're glad I'm here, right? I can do these things. And it was just so interesting that in that moment, the Lord just was like, here, Here's a nugget of exactly what you're working on today. And it unraveled a story that had been present, which I would imagine is probably similar to when you opened up this episode. You said, my whole life, I just felt like something was just wrong about me as a person.
As a person, yeah.
I kind of got that sense from this client. Like her whole life, she had felt like, I'm not who I'm supposed to be. I wasn't supposed to be. I'm a disappointment, on some deep level. And that's why the tears were so intense in that session, because it resonated so hard and so deep for her. And I love doing womb work because you've never known life without it. You've never taken a breath without that impression, that heaviness or that trauma on you. So you don't know what it feels like to live free from it. There was a no beforehand.
That is wild. Yeah. And it also compounds, right? It's like a domino effect, because you're starting life off with, maybe this identity issue, and then that just
changes your personality. You start building stuff on top of it.
That's why I started off in the beginning saying, like, if you have that instinct or that gut feeling that something just isn't quite right, like, really dig deep, really try to find out, because you're probably spot on. There probably is something there that you just can't remember, and it could totally be womb work and everything that we've just talked about,
That's such a good point. I don't know if anyone's ever said that on the podcast either, is like addressing just the general, something's wrong with me and I don't even know what's wrong. I just know it's not right.
I just know it's not right. Yeah, exactly. So
is there anything you wanted to say about your mothering journey, your kids, your pregnancies that we didn't get to touch on before we kind of transition to a new topic?
I just kind of want to go back to, at one point I had no hope and that hope has been restored, and it's all thanks and praise to Jesus. Seriously.
No hope in your mothering ability, in life, in yourself?
In myself.
All of it? Okay.
All of it. Yeah. It was a very dark spot in my life for sure. So, but it's back and it's reignited and it's glowing bright. So yeah, I am going to pivot just a little bit because I have Laura's full attention, so I'm taking full advantage of it. But yeah, this is a 2-part question. So for someone who has never heard of Splankna before, what's the one thing you wish every person knew about it?
I think I would answer that in a 2-part. One of them is I wish people could understand that this is not talk therapy. Like, you don't have to be able to put into words why you're hurting so badly. You don't have to tell me where it started, how it shows up in your life. You can come to a Splankna session and we'll just sit at the feet of Jesus and we're just going to ask him. I don't know how to heal you. I don't know how to fix you. I don't know where this depression, anxiety, sleep issues, trust issues, self-esteem stuff, I don't know where that started for you, but he does. And that's all we need to do. It is like unfairly easy. Unfairly meaning like, God, what do you mean? All we have to do is sit here for an hour and just ask you to speak to us, and you do, and you unravel the story, and then you rewrite the story, and then people walk out changed. Like, he's so good. He's so kind. He's so gentle. If you went through a horrific trauma and the thought of bringing it back up and reliving it, it sounds like you just can't do that. You really don't have to do that in Splankna. I've had people that said, I will only do a Splankna session if I don't have to say anything. And I was like, oh, Lord, okay.
Really?
Sure, let's try it. I don't know if that's possible, but let's try it. And we did it in a complete session, and the person stood true to their word. They did not speak a single word. I had no idea if anything was resonating, what the story was, but they knew the story. And I would just say, like, are memories popping up for you as you held this? And they would nod their head, and I'd say, okay. And I'm going to just see, like, let's see if this is the memory that's tied to the thing. And, you know, we depended on listening prayer, and muscle testing, and we did the entire session, and that person got breakthrough. Meaning they were having some, and this is a story that's been shared on the podcast before, but they had gotten a severe brain injury, and they were going to this person that was measuring their brain activity, right hemisphere, left hemisphere, every other week, and their brain measurements changed after that Splankna session. After we processed the trauma of the brain injury itself. Like, it showed up in a measurable way on a scan.
Wow.
Like, it's just so wild to me. And they didn't even speak to me. I had most of the time I had no idea what was landing for them. I was like, okay. So that's what I would want people to know, is this is not talk therapy. If you've tried talk therapy, this is so different. And it's hard to tell you why and how it's different. I would just really encourage you, just go do a session. If you hate it, you never have to do it again, but I bet you're not going to hate it.
Mm-hmm. And then my follow-up question is, let's see, for someone who's carrying a lot of trauma but is hesitant to try Splankna because of its Christian foundation, like maybe somebody who doesn't believe in Jesus or that Jesus isn't their savior. Yeah, what would you want them to know? How would you address their concerns and help them understand what the process is really like?
I don't know if I'm super qualified to answer this one. I'm curious to hear your answer as well, because I have very rarely gotten to work with non-believers. The people I've kind of gotten started with and get referred to me are people of faith, and the faith piece is just not a big deal for them. But man, I would love to work with an atheist or someone from a different faith, or literally anyone else, because I just know God would meet them in it. Mm-hmm. And what I would say to them is, hey, you don't have to be a Christian. You don't have to be a believer. You don't even have to know if you trust God in order to do a session. As long as you're okay and comfortable with the fact that I am those things. And for 1 hour, if you're just open to, like, letting God do something, even if you don't believe he's there, but could you just be open to it for an hour? And I would speak with them, and I would say, like, what's your level of comfortability? There's definitely going to be prayer. I'd love to pray over you. But I would imagine sometimes people would be like, I don't want to pray that back, but you can pray it over me. Like, whatever that was, like, and I'm sure practitioners would be different on this, but I would be willing to work with them on that, as long as we're not cutting Jesus out of the equation. I'm not going to call it universal energy or anything like that. I'm going to be talking to Jesus. But if someone was just like, you know what, I just don't know what I think about faith. I don't really know if God's real, but sure, you can do a Splankna session on me. I just know God would show up.
I do too.
And man, I would love the opportunity to just speak into that person's life, because those stories of trauma typically have a way of beating us down, and God always has a flip side to that story.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
They've probably never heard it because they haven't asked him what his perspective on the whole thing was.
Yeah, I also haven't worked with anybody who's not a non-believer, so I don't have much insight into this question either. But the first thing that pops into my mind is, how when we're doing a forgiveness statement and it's just so hard to say, and maybe you're not even ready to forgive the other person, but the practitioner will just encourage you, just start with speaking it. Just start with saying the words. And that would be my biggest thing, is just start somewhere. Just even if you don't fully believe in the prayers, just say them and see what happens and see what unravels in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think in all of Splankna, the entire process is just so gentle. It's not going to feel like Christianity is being shoved down your throat. Mm-hmm. If you're worried about that, I just would encourage you, it's not that.
Mm-hmm.
And just take a chance.
The prayers are, there is definitely a lot of praying involved, because that's just what the foundation of Splankna is. But
yep.
yeah. And then I also wanted to just speak on the creative side of Splankna. I don't know if you wanted to give a little background into that before I jump into my question.
No, go for it. I want to hear exactly what you're thinking about it. That's, again, I love having you on here. That's, again, not something we talk about super often on here. So go for it.
Yeah, the creative side is so cool, you guys. So a lot of people associate Splankna primarily with trauma healing, but that's only part of the picture. There's an entire area focused on creative work, personal growth, and helping people overcome the mental and emotional barriers that might be holding them back from reaching their goals. And so I was hoping you could talk a little bit about that side of Splankna. How can it benefit someone who isn't necessarily looking to heal from past trauma, but wants to grow and perform at a higher level, strengthen their relationships, increase confidence, pursue their goals more effectively?
Yeah, I love that. So the neuro geek in me, I always love to think about this like we have neural pathways in our brain. The only way our brain can communicate a thought is by connecting two brain cells, two neurons, and send a message in between them. We all learned about that in school. The pathways in between these brain cells can be thick or thin. Thin ones are slower and they're harder to access. They don't feel natural. Thick ones are easy. We've been doing it for 30 years. Our brain just goes there so fast. It's like a deep rivet that's been traveled so many times. The brain just is like, oh yeah, I know what to do. But sometimes those thick ones are like negative self-talk. So our brain just goes to beating ourselves up because it's been doing that for 30 years. And creative work is cool because it takes the very thin places of your brain, the pathways that might not be traveled very often, like encouraging yourself, like believing the truth of the Bible, what God says about you, what God says about trusting Him, about you being able to be successful in something or feeling hope about something. If those pathways are shriveled up for you, we can be like, okay, well, they're not nothing. They're still there. Let's strengthen them. Every time you access a pathway in your brain, you have the opportunity for that pathway to get thicker, stronger, and faster, which means it's more likely that you'll go there. Your brain will grab onto it in a time of hardship. So in like this algorithm she's talking about, or in any other, there's so many different ways creative work shows up, but you're almost giving the brain a chance to practice feeling hopeful. You're letting it remember maybe a time in your life that you felt extremely hopeful about something, or you're working on a time in your life where you succeeded and you were so proud of yourself and you felt like, man, I can do anything. If God's by my side, I got this. And you go back to that moment. It's not a trauma moment. It's like a super successful, exciting, empowering moment. And we can reactivate that part of your brain so it doesn't feel so buried. It doesn't feel so fragile. Then the next time that you need to feel hope, or the next time you need to feel like, man, if I apply myself, I'll be able to get this done. Well, because of your creative Splankna work, you've been fortifying that part of your brain, and your brain will go, I know what to do. I don't have to go the hopeless route where everything's going to fall apart. I could actually grab onto this thought that says things might work out for the good. And you can start breaking out of those bad habits of whatever it is that keeps showing up in your life.
Do you remember what they taught about creative work being more effective and it catching on quicker? Do you remember that?
No, quicker than like clearing out trauma work?
Yes, there's something that Sarah taught on. I wish I had brushed up on my education. We might need to cut this out. But yeah, it was something along the lines of like when you do creative work, the creative part of it, the positive part of it is like it weighs more.
Oh, yes, I do know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And I thought that was so fascinating. I don't know, how much time do we have? Oh, we're at 55 minutes, so maybe I won't go grab my notes. But
yeah, that went by fast. Yeah, but it's almost like what I remember hearing her teach on that, the positive emotions, the hope, the encouragement, the joy, all of those emotions way more. They have a heavier weight to them, and the brain almost just wants to grab onto them. If you give them just a little bit of intention and time and practice, your brain is like, oh, thank goodness. I don't want to be in that dark cloud all the time. It almost just shows me like our bodies are meant to line up with the things of heaven. Like our brain craves to line up with the truth of heaven.
Amen.
If we just, what you practice thinking about, so important. This is why the Bible says, take every thought captive, meaning you decide what gets to go on in your brain. When you think of it that way, like take every thought captive, you're like, oh yeah, I've heard that verse 100 times, take your thoughts captive. But when you really realize you're building a brain structure, there is a map of neural networks in your mind that you have built based on what you allow to keep thinking in your mind or what you shut down and replace. And over time, you can recreate that map. It's called neuroplasticity, meaning your brain is not fixed metal. You with practice, you can change it. You can change the fact that you used to be really pessimistic, and now you have trained your brain to be optimistic, to be hopeful. What if it all works out? What if God shows up instead of fear and anxiety and mistrust and depression? And man, I just think that's so cool, because it's just proof that the God we serve and the God that created us, healing is it's in everything he does.
Everything.
It's stamped into our very DNA and the way our brains work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I really just wanted to touch on that topic, that like healing has, or that Splankna has both sides to the healing, where you can go the trauma route, but it also has this like beautiful side of creative work that I don't know if many people know about. So
yeah, that's so good. I had one client a couple years ago, and I would always get disappointed when creative work would test, because I was like, oh, I want to like clean out the junk, get them free from their traumas. But this client had, by the end of this session, they were like out of their chair on their knees, like weeping and worshiping Jesus. And this was like a big, tough, muscular guy that you would never imagine would even be open to something like inner healing work. And I just like sat back, and I'm like, I'm not going to say a word, because the Lord took over. The Holy Spirit was just like ministering to him in a creative session, and it changed my whole perspective. I kind of thought creative sessions were like a waste of time, I hate to say it, before that event. And then I was like, oh, this is the moment where I see like God can use these just as powerfully, just as necessary as the trauma healing.
wow.
Just so beautiful. I always say it doesn't just feel like when you go to work, you just feel like you get to watch Jesus do miracles.
It really does. It really does.
Okay, I want to end with just one like quick question from you. You are one of my featured practitioners, which means I know you in real life. We've sat down together. We've talked. We have a monthly gathering that we meet each other on. I have done a session with you as a client where you were the practitioner, and your heart for Jesus was so beautiful, so evident. And not that other people's aren't, that I've worked with before, but in the first 20 seconds of being your client, I was like, oh, this girl like really loves Jesus. And I could have listened to you pray the entire time, because you were just talking to your best friend. So I just want to honor that in you and just like say that it is so evident. It just, whatever you've got going on in your heart in the Lord, it is so evident to the world around you so quickly and instantly. And I want people to have this chance to kind of hear from you, get to know you and your heart for Splankna and for healing and for Jesus, because if I was a client out there and I didn't have anyone in my area, I would be scared to just, they're not crazy and that they actually know Jesus. And like, it's a big deal to tell somebody your trauma stories. So thank you for coming on here and just like letting people get to know you. And I want to encourage you, if you're listening and you're needing a practitioner, Miya is a great one. I am speaking from experience. Can you just, I don't even know how to ask this question, but like, what do you love about Jesus so much?
Yeah. What do I love about Jesus is my everything. I feel like with Splankna, I'm able to just be weak, be a sinner, be imperfect, and just allow Jesus to work through all of that. And that's all I do. When I meet up with somebody, seriously, there is no judgment whatsoever. I have done it all, you guys. I have been through so much. I have made some really bad decisions in my life. And because of Jesus, I'm just a completely different person. And I'm so grateful that I can come before him and confess and repent, and that he can create new ways of thinking and new ways of operating. It's a beautiful thing. And so I just want everybody to know that I follow the protocol to a T. I listen, I learn, I study, I retake classes. But at the end of the day, I just say, Jesus, use me as I am. Use me in my weaknesses. Use my weakness for your strength. Just use me to speak to this person and to speak life into them and whatever. I'm a vessel for the Lord. So, yeah.
What I've learned about you is you don't like to do things halfway. You don't want to do them wrong. You don't want to do them even like, we'll wing it and see how it goes. You want to do things so well and so complete and with so much excellence. And I really appreciate that about you. I am much more of like let's just see how it goes. We'll wing it. It'll be fine, which there's benefits and all that to that kind of an approach too, but there's something so beautiful about what you bring to, like, I'm not going to do this unless I know that I've got the protocol right, that I've got the steps exactly how they're supposed to be, and you're leaning so heavily on Jesus. Like, I think that's the best combination ever. So anyway, guys, highly recommend Miya if you're looking for a practitioner. All of her information is going to be on my website, lauramilliken.com. There's a button on there. It says like book a virtual session, or if you see something about featured practitioners, I've got a list of people on there that I know in real life. I trust. They're amazing practitioners. They love Jesus. And this is kind of a tail end of I've been going through interviewing those women. And if you want to meet them, hear their stories, hear more from other people who know and love Splankna, other than just me, I'd encourage you to go back and listen to some of those episodes. But it's all going to be there. And again, you're looking for Miya Martin is who we're interviewing today. So once again, thanks for being here. What a joy to talk with you.
Laura, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
All right, guys, we will see you back next 2 weeks from now. Our summer schedule is we're releasing every 2 weeks. And then in the fall, we'll be back to weekly episodes. Have a great time.